Well, there's no better time to be a mixed martial arts fan than the year 2023 because UFC Fight Pass has you covered with events from all over the world. And one of the best regional promotions you can find on Sunday nights on UFC Fight Pass, it is Fury FC. Pleased to be joined now by the Fury FC president, Eric Garcia. Eric, how are you?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you joining me as we are rolling into the new year. We're starting to get things underway, officially get into the swing of things week after week. It's fight after fight. And, I kind of like that Sunday night placement for Fury FC because everything is looking, always towards Saturday night, the big UFCs. But, I don't know about anyone else, but like I need like something to sort of unwind to. And, like I kind of feel like I'm the fight fan that sort of will recommend a fight card, like fine wine connoisseurs will recommend wine. And if it's Sunday night, I'm on UFC Fight Pass watching Fury FC.
Yeah, we kind of started that as it was supposed to be a Sunday punch and brunch.
I like that.
Yeah, just kind of to wind down on a Sunday. A lot of people get up, have brunch, go to the fights. It was an idea. We did one, and it just kind of stuck with us.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like with football season winding down, I feel like there's a sense of loss for a lot of sports fans on Sunday. They need something, and what better way than to sort of get over that than by watching top level talent in mixed martial arts try to prove themselves.
Yeah, for sure. We stay consistent with the Sundays. Every now and again, we'll throw a Friday in there just due to scheduling, but the Sundays definitely work best for us as long as we're working around the football season for sure.
Right.
Got a lot of football fans out there.
Let's talk a little bit about UFC or Fury FC 73. It just took place last Sunday night. Man, this Josh Walker kid, like I hate to sort of say that sometimes promotions and partners can get hyperbolic about up-and-coming talent. And when I saw the headline over on UFC.com, the article said, Josh Walker trying to be the flyweight version of John Jones. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. But then we see him launch this flying knee knockout victory, first fight at 125, and it's like, all right, I'm not ready to say that he's going to be the next John Jones, but there are flashes of brilliance in this young man, to say the least.
Yeah, so Josh, he's been on our roster for a little bit. He was fighting for us at 35. I was curious to see what he would do at 125. When he told me he was going to go to 125, I was a little bit hesitant. Not that he wouldn't make the weight, but I thought it was going to be a struggle. I didn't know if I was going to see him perform because I've seen him have a few cardio issues at 135. So I was like, man, going to 125, is this going to work? And then we matched him with Eddie Friday, and that kid's a knockout artist. But then when we did the face-offs at weigh-ins and I saw how much Josh towered over him, I was like, oh, man, this kid made weight. He's going to be a big flyweight. And sure enough, man, he got in there and he got rocked in the first. He recovered and he came out firing in the second. He looked great.
What is it about sort of like, what is your feelings when an athlete comes to you as the promoter and says like, hey, look, I want to fight in, a lower weight class? Because there's some pressure on you, like to say, okay, is this the right choice? Especially when you put someone in like a main event spotlight, because everything can go pear-shaped if someone doesn't make weight.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were keeping up with it, but we actually ran into that issue this weekend. I had Gianni Vasquez fighting Eric Shelton. That was a main event flyweight showdown, and Shelton came in 2 pounds over, and Gianni and his team decided not to fight. So, we got put in a situation where we were like, man, we're about to lose our main event, and luckily we had enough talent on the card that Josh and Eddie went right into that main event spot, and it worked out perfect. But yeah, to answer your question, it depends on the guy. If I see that he's been consistent and he's fighting at 155 and he's been coming in at 55 or 54, or, he goes in there and he handles his business, takes care of everything outside of the weight as well as making weight. I'm not going to doubt him if he tells me that, hey, I want to go to 145.
Right. Yeah. I feel like promoters generally have to wear this, they wear many caps, but one is also that of like a Houdini, an escape artist, because you gotta dodge a lot of, potential hazards like that.
Yeah. I mean, people have no idea. Being a promoter is more than just, let's just make fights.
Right.
It's like you have, number one, you got to make the right fights, and I see a lot of promotions that I'll scan their cards, up and down just to see where we kind of compare. And we'll build a super deep undercard that has the type of fights that you might see on some other promotion's main card. And a lot of the times we do that just in case we lose some main card fights. We're able to grab a couple undercard fights and bump them up to the main card. It still makes sense for UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, that's the thing. I didn't even know that you did run into this issue this past weekend, and it still came off without a hitch. So, it's funny. You get used to being able to make those adjustments on the fly. Like any good fighter in mixed martial arts, you're only going to have success if you make the proper adaptations along the way. And I think the same can be said for a promoter. One thing that I think, really sticks out about Fury FC is this, level of talent, this depth level of talent at 125 pounds. Like you seem to have a ton of flyweights coming up that are, obviously very easy to get excited about. Like Josh Walker, like I said, very exciting. But there's a guy named Josh Van who's 7-1. He's on a 5-fight win streak. If wrestlers are your thing, Nick Piccinini 4-0, fighting out of AKA. Like it seems like for whatever reason you found this deep talent pool at 125.
Yeah, we work really hard. Obviously, Texas has a ton of talent. So a lot of our flyweights do come out of Texas, and we're here in Houston. But we have to find guys to fight those guys. So when I sit down and I start scanning Tapology and I'm looking at the flyweights across the nation, I'm reaching out to the guys that I see are young. They got winning records. I'm trying to make exciting fights. I'm looking for I'm trying to put myself in Mick's spot and see what Mick might. If Mick Maynard is watching a Fury FC show, I want him to get excited when he sees a flyweight or a middleweight or a light heavyweight, anybody in his division. Same thing with Sean. But as far as the flyweights, I mean, we have a ton of them, and I think we have so many because we grabbed probably the top 10 in the nation, or tried to get the top 10 in the nation. And then when we went to find the guys to fight them, it was only the toughest guys that would say, okay, I'll fight that guy. And we ended up getting them under 4-fight deals, and here we are.
You see, it's exciting for me to hear that you focus on those divisions because 10, 15 years ago, it was really hard. I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't even fight in this country at 125. It just wasn't a thing. You're going to Japan. And then 10 or 15 years ago, before the UFC brought in the flyweight division, we're talking about guys like, Ian McCall and Jussier Formiga, really good, high-level guys, number one in the world at the time, fighting at the Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino out in the parking lot in Lemoore. And, now that you're doing your part in building up this division, it's exciting. But one thing I'm sort of always, curious about, you are in a tough spot when it comes to actually, belting a champion, putting a title on the line, because obviously you want continuity. You want fans to be able to come out and learn, who your stars are and get to know them. But at the same time, someone shines a little too brightly, all of a sudden they're in the UFC's octagon rather than defending their title or, fighting for you in Fury.
Yeah, that's what's happened a couple of times. We've crowned some champs and then that's it. They're gone and we have to vacate and start over. I know in 2021, Dana came and did Looking for a Fight twice. Right there, we put a belt on a 55er, Trey Ogden, Dana took him. The show before that, we had Leomano Martinez took the 35 belt and he got signed. And then a couple months before that, CJ Vergara and Jacob Silva fought. CJ got the title and he got signed. So yeah, it is. It's rough, but obviously if these guys are leaving Fury FC and they're going to Contender Series of the UFC, I feel like we're doing our job.
I think the best promoters in the world have a title belt on the line, and while it says, maybe your company's logo on the front, if on the back side it says admit one to the UFC's octagon, it's a pretty damn good championship to try to go after and get.
Yeah, no doubt. For sure, man. For sure.
Coming up this weekend at Fury FC 74, I think the bantamweight title's on the line. I mean, this kid's name, Cameron Smotherman, like he had to get into fighting, right?
Yeah, the babyface killer.
With a name like Smotherman, go out there and smother him, Smotherman.
Yeah. If you've have you kept up with him a little bit?
I know he's on a 3-fight win streak, 7-3. But that's pretty much all I know thus far, Eric.
He goes out there and he puts on a show. He's the type of kid that he's not going to shoot for a takedown. He's going to defend. He's going to make you stand up if you fall to your back. He's a headhunter. He's looking for the knockout. He's always looking for the finish. So he's well deserving of this title, and he's one to look for. I think a win here should get him a spot on Contender Series this year.
Standing in front of him is Peter Caballero, who's 33 years old, 13-5. He's on a 2-fight win streak. A little bit older, but definitely probably wants to steal that buzz off of Smotherman.
Yeah, and I think this is the type of fight that Peter needs also. His age is what's against him, and we look at that as well. Originally, he was supposed to be fighting Carlos Vera, and Vera's 35 years old. He's got a really good record too. And that was something that me and Rich kind of kicked around when we were making that title fight. We're like, man, regardless of who wins this fight, we're either going to have a 32-year-old or a 35-year-old champion. Is that somebody that at 135, is Sean Shelby going to want one of these guys?
Right.
I think both of those guys deserve at least one shot so they can see if they can make it. They've been in the game for so long, but Vera stepped out and now Cameron Smotherman's in. Now we got a young guy. So I think that makes it more exciting. If he wins, I think he definitely deserves a shot. And I think if Peter beats him, he just stole the shine from a young guy. So
yeah, that's the sort of best part, I think, about being a promoter and a matchmaker is obviously you want to make educated decisions and do what's right for the progression of the athletes in the sport. But, if you make a misstep or if you give an opportunity that isn't deserved, like these guys will sort it out. They'll tell you whether or not that they deserve it because, this is the ultimate meritocracy when it comes to actual results inside the cage.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Also coming up in Houston at Fury FC 74 will be a fun flyweight fight in our co-main event. A man named Fat Tony. I don't feel comfortable calling a flyweight Fat Tony, but Anthony Canzano, he takes on Alberto Trujillo. Both of these guys, 30 and over. What should we expect in this co-main event?
We signed Canzano last year, and he came in and fought for us in South Texas, and he fought at 135 because I couldn't find a 25er to fight him. He fought Eddie Torres. And everybody was saying he was a wrestler. This kid came in and put on a striking clinic. He broke Eddie Torres' jaw in the first round, and Torres, tough as nails, fought the whole fight like that. But Canzano looked like a stud. He was impressive. He had a baby. He's been out. Alberto Trujillo, he's a little monster. He's not a huge 125er, but he will put you on your back and he will ground and pound you. I think either one of these guys could be deserving of a fight with Van after this.
So title eliminator, maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
I like it.
I think so. The other thing is, though, that we do have Gianni Vasquez set to fight Edgar Chairez in California on 3/17. And if you kept up with Chairez at all, he was a Combate Global champion, but he went to Contender Series last year, and he was super exciting. Spin stuff, flying knees. So it's kind of hard to say because either one of those guys who wins would be deserving of a flyweight title as well. So it's kind of, we got about 4 or 5 guys right now that are like right there. Any of them could fight Josh Van for that belt.
That's awesome. I'm looking at like your upcoming shows, and obviously you're based in Texas, but you mentioned coming out to Visalia, California, the Central Valley. Like, why take the show on the road like you are? I love it. I think it's important to get multiple looks and just be one of the better regional shows in the Southwest rather than just sticking to Texas. But what's the sort of motivation to take the show on the road, Eric?
I think that a lot of the buzz behind Fury FC is the talent that we pull. So we're signing guys from all over the nation. I think that by us taking the show on the road, sometimes we get to visit some of these guys' hometown. It allows them to fight for us in their hometown and not have to always travel. We've been to Denver, I think, 4 times. We probably have 40 guys from Colorado on the roster. So when we go out there, it makes sense. They get to fight at home. I think it also is good for branding. When people see us traveling to different states, it gives more of an awe that Fury FC is not just a Texas-based promotion. We do New Orleans, we do Colorado, we do California, Oklahoma. We're looking to branch out.
I think there's an old, sort of word that I've thrown around a few times here with you, saying that you're a regional promoter. And, that's sort of like confining in the sense that, like, I'm saying you're regional in the sense like you're always doing the shows in the same place. But that's not really the outlook, at least not the vibe that I get from Fury. Like, I feel like Fury is a AAA show. Like, if we're talking about baseball, you wouldn't say a minor league team is a regional team. Right. You'd say they're a AAA or a AA. Is that fair to call Fury FC, AAA MMA?
I think so. Obviously, we are based out of Texas. We're from Houston, so the bulk of our shows are here in Houston. But that's not the only place we go. Like I said, I mentioned some states. We do go to other places. I would say that we're in a position right now that we are kind of a direct path to the UFC.
Right.
If you come in and you perform well on UFC Fight Pass and you get a few wins and you get a possible title shot and you do something spectacular, you're going to get a lot of coverage. You know, the Fight Pass team will cover you. There's interviews, and Sean and Mick might look at you and give us a call and say, "Hey, who was that guy?" So AAA sounds good to me. I'm excited. I'm good with it.
It's impossible to fly under the radar when you're fighting directly on the radar, you know?
Yeah, 100%, man.
You know, we talk about sort of your pathway through Fury to the UFC for a lot of athletes. One thing that it looks like you guys are focusing on is providing a pipeline for collegiate wrestlers to come through Fury and then get to the next level, you know, or at least be able to showcase their skills and find their feet in mixed martial arts. Is that something you focused on, or is it just by happenstance you've had these elite level wrestlers fight at Fury?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting story, kind of how I came across Jacoby Smith and Nick Piccinini. I was having dinner with a friend, and I get a text message, and the message I read, it says, "Hey, this is Daniel Cormier. I'd like to get a couple guys on your show. I see Fury's doing very well. I've got a few guys I'd like to run through Fury. If you have time, give me a call." I thought somebody was catfishing me. I didn't believe it was DC really shooting me a text. So after dinner, I responded. I said, "Yeah, let's talk whenever you get a chance." And I'm headed home and my phone rings and it pops up Daniel Cormier. So I answer the phone and I recognize his voice right away. But he pitched me Nick Piccinini and Jacoby Smith. And he said, "Hey, I've been trying to get these guys fights. They keep falling out. I haven't had anything solid. You know, if we can get them a 4-fight deal and you can keep them busy, let's do it." So I think this was like mid-November. And I told him, I said, "Listen, I have a show 12/18. I promise you I'll do my best to match both of them." He said, "Let's do it." And I had opponents for him like within 2 weeks, and the rest is history. So getting those two guys obviously those guys are savages, but that's kind of where we got them. And, you know, but if they've got teammates or if there's some Penn State wrestlers or anybody else that's interested in Fury, man, we'd love to have them for sure.
There you go. And I think the audience over on UFC Fight Pass definitely on board to watch any of those up-and-comers go out and test themselves. And, you know, you never know what will happen. I mean, we've seen one thing that I've seen, I guess, really over the last few years on UFC Fight Pass that has stuck out is you might not know all the names. It's not going to be, you know, as buzzworthy across the entire sport for a Fury FC compared to, say, a UFC on Saturday night. But you know what? It doesn't matter. If the fighters come to fight, you might have a fight of the year. And I'm not talking just a UFC Fight Pass fight of the year. You might have a fight of the year for mixed martial arts on any card. And that may very well could be a Fury FC, which is Sunday nights on UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah, 100%. It's coming this year. We got a lot of stuff. We've signed a lot of guys. We got a lot of shows. We're excited for everything that's coming in 2023.